We are back.
We are back.
And if you're just joining us now, you have,
Uh,
well, you've walked into the second half of one of the stranger things we've ever really looked at. This is part 2 of our deep dive into that anonymous PDF, that kind of digital scrapbook called Photographic Evidence of an Alternative History.
And if you missed part 1, you might honestly want to hit pause and go back. Just so you can get the, let's call it the texture of the document we're dealing with.
Yeah, the context really matters here.
It does. I mean, this is not a peer-reviewed paper from a university.
Yeah.
It's a relic, an artifact from that old file-sharing era of the late 2000s.
Right, and it's linked to that whole alchemy community, that Book of Aquarius forum we spent so much time on.
Yeah.
So part 1 was the who. Who made this thing? Why is it anonymous? We went down a very deep rabbit hole of forum posts and digital archaeology. It was a detective story.
It really was.
But today,
Hmm.
today is about the what?
The evidence, or at least what the author is claiming is evidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're done with the backstory. Today, we are opening the file, sitting down, and we're just looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
And I want to set the ground rules for this deep dive immediately, because this stuff gets tricky.
It usually does.
Our mission today is not to debunk every single image.
Okay.
We would be here for a week.
No.
And it's certainly not to blindly endorse them and say, yep, history is a lie. We are here to do exactly what the title of this deep dive suggests. We are going to ask, what are we actually looking at?
We want to understand why these specific images were chosen. You know, why this collection? What's the through line?
Right. Why are they so effective at planting that little seed of doubt? Because even if you're a complete skeptic, some of these images, they stick with you.
And that's harder than it sounds, because the human brain, it's a pattern matching machine. That's what it does.
It is.
We're hardwired for it. You see a shape in the clouds, you want to name it. You see a shadow in the corner of your eye, you think it's a person.
Cool.
Exactly. And this document, it feels like weaponized pattern recognition. It's designed from the ground up to trigger that wait a minute response over and over again.
Okay, before we jump in, a quick formatting note for you listening. This is an image-driven deep dive.
Very visual.
We're going to be referencing specific figures in the PDF. I'll be saying figure 1, figure 5, figure 44, and so on.
So if you're in a place where you can pull up the document safely, we've linked it in the show notes. You really should.
Please do. It completely changes the experience.
But if you're driving or you're on a run, don't worry. We are going to describe these things in, high fidelity detail will be your eyes.
We will, but the argument the author is making is visual. The text is almost secondary. The author even admits that. It's a direct challenge to your eyes.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's get into it. Section 1. The author titles this simply, Modern Dinosaurs.
Which is, well, that's a bold way to start a conversation.
It cuts right to the chase. The premise is simple. Standard history, geology, paleontology, all of it says dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago.
And humans, well, they appeared a few 100,000 years ago, give or take.
So the Venn diagram of humans and dinosaurs should be two completely separate circles. No overlap.
Yeah.
They miss each other by, what, 64.5 million years?
Right. Eons.
But this document argues that dragons, which appear in almost every single culture's mythology, from China to Wales to the Americas, are not symbolic. They aren't metaphors for chaos.
They're just cultural memories.
Eyewitness accounts.
Eyewitness accounts of dinosaurs that somehow survived the extinction event.
And it kicks off the argument with figure 1.
Okay, I've got figure 1 pulled up on my screen.
Put a figure 1 on your screen if you can. This is labeled as an Aboriginal painting from the Kuku-Yalanji tribes in far north Queensland, Australia. Describe what we're looking at here, just the visual.
So it's a line drawing. It's very stylized, which is, typical for this kind of Aboriginal art. You have a group of human figures standing around what looks like a body of water.
Mm-hmm.
They're holding spears, maybe some shields, but the focus of the whole piece is the creature that's in the water.
And this is where that pattern recognition kicks in, like immediately.
Oh, instantly.
Yeah.
Because that shape, looking at it, it doesn't look like a lizard. And it sure doesn't look like a saltwater crocodile, which would be the local apex predator in Queensland.
Why not? What's different?
Well, look at the body. It has this heavy, round body, almost like a barrel, and it has 4 very distinct flippers. Not legs with claws, flippers.
Okay.
And then there's the neck. It has this long, winding serpentine neck.
It looks like the classic Loch Ness monster shape, the plesiosaur.
It looks exactly like a plesiosaur from a biology textbook. I mean, it's uncanny.
The source text here says, this is from a technical journal from 1998, and it claims the tribe calls this creature Yaru and that it inhabited rainforest waterholes.
Now, we know Australian mythology is full of the bunyip, right? These water monsters.
Right.
But usually, the bunyip is described as this mismatch of things, like a dog's face, a horse's tail, clippers. It's vague. It's a nightmare creature.
But this drawing is specific, and there's one detail the author points out that I think is the real hook here. Look at the body of the creature again.
I'm looking. Is it transparent? There are lines inside of it.
Yeah.
It's an X-ray style painting. This is a traditional technique in some Aboriginal art where the artist paints what's inside the subject, not just the outside. You can see the internal organs.
The text says, quote, let me read this exactly. It even shows an outline of the gastrointestinal tract, indicating that these animals had been hunted and butchered.
That is the fascinating detail. It implies intimate anatomical knowledge.
Right. It's not just a monster.
No. If you're just making up a story to scare kids away from the water, which is a common theory for why bunyip stories exist, you focus on the scary parts, the teeth, the claws, the glowing red eyes. You don't usually draw a careful diagram of its stomach and intestines.
Unless you've opened one up.
Exactly. That's the argument being made, that this isn't a mythological symbol, it's a butcher's diagram.
We have to play devil's advocate here. We have to be the neutral investigators. What else could this be?
Well, stylization can go a long way. Australia has saltwater crocodiles, salties. They're huge, they're terrifying, and they live in the water.
Okay.
An artist could be stylizing a croc. Maybe they exaggerated the neck to show movement through the water. Or, I don't know, maybe it's an emu swimming.
An emu?
Emus have really long necks. If you
Yeah.
see one swimming, which they do, it looks like a head on a stick moving through the water. It's a weird sight.
Maybe. But a croc has legs, not these big round flippers.
Yeah.
And a croc doesn't have that distinct, long, swan-like neck curve.
No, it doesn't. And an emu doesn't have that body or tail. And that's the track of this document. You look at figure 1 and you say, okay, that's weird, it's an anomaly. But it's just one painting. Paintings can be anything. But then you scroll down.
To the stone. Let's move to figure 3, figure 4, and figure 5. This is the heavy hitter. If you search for ancient dinosaurs online, this is the image that comes up first.
The Angkor Wat stegosaur.
Right. So, context first. We're in Cambodia, the Ta Prohm Temple. This was built in the late 12th century, early 13th century. So we're talking about the Khmer Empire.
This is a high civilization. This is not prehistoric cave art. This is intricate medieval architecture.
And Ta Prohm is famous for being left in that semi-wild state. It's the temple where those massive silk cotton tree roots are growing over the walls.
If you've seen the movie Tomb Raider, you've seen this temple.
Exactly. So look at figure 3. It's a vertical column, a pilaster, and it's covered in these intricate circular carvings. They're called decorative roundels.
And inside each circle is an animal. There's a monkey, a deer, some water birds, parrots.
All standard local animals. Things you would see in the Cambodian jungle in 1200 AD.
And then you get to the one in the middle, figure 5. Let's put figure 5 up for everyone.
Okay, tell me what you see inside that circle. And try not to use the D word.
Well, it is hard not to. Okay, it's a quadruped. 4 legs, heavy, thick body. The head is relatively small and it's low to the ground.
Yeah.
But the defining feature, the thing that makes you just stop, is along its back. There is a row of distinct triangular things, plates.
They look like plates.
They look exactly like the dorsal plates of a stegosaurus. And the tail seems to have a curvature to it, though you can't clearly see the thagomizer, the spikes on the tail, because the circle's edge cuts it off.
The text accompanying this is very direct. It asks, have stegosaurs roamed Cambodia less than 1,000 years ago?
That's scientifically impossible according to our current timeline. Stegosaurs were Jurassic animals. They vanished 145 million years ago. They didn't even make it to the end of the age of dinosaurs.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. There is actually more time separating a stegosaurus from a T-Rex than there is separating a T-Rex from us.
Wow. Okay. So for one to be walking around Cambodia in 1200 AD...
It's not just a lost world scenario. That's a massive temporal anomaly.
But visually, just look at figure 5. It's jarring because it's not just a lizard. Lizards don't have upright plates like that. Chameleons have ridges, sure, but not distinct separated triangles.
The skeptics and the document actually lists a few alternative theories here, which I do appreciate. They suggest it might be a rhino.
A rhino?
Yeah. A Sumatran rhinoceros lived in Cambodia. If you look at the head, it's kind of heavy. It has big ears.
I see that.
But the plates, the counter-argument is that those are leaves in the background.
Leaves?
Right. that the animal is standing in front of vegetation and the plates are just stylized leaves behind it.
Okay, I'm looking really closely at Figure 5. I'm zooming in on the PDF. The problem with the leaves theory for me is that they follow the curve of the spine perfectly.
They do. They don't look like random background noise. They look attached to the animal.
And if you look at the other animals in the column, look back at Figure 3 again, the backgrounds are usually distinct. The monkey is in front of leaves, but the leaves look like leaves. They don't look like they're part of the monkey's anatomy.
That's a really good point. Here, the leaves mimic the dorsal ridge perfectly. It triggers that pattern recognition again. Your brain sees the silhouette and it just screams, Stegosaurus.
But here's where the neutral investigator has to step in. The text mentions something about the color of the stone, specifically in Figure 5.
Yes, that's a crucial detail.
Let me read this part. It says, if you will note on the photos, the panel seems to be of a lighter shade of gray. Is this due to it being kept cleaner for tourists or because this is a newly added panel?
And that is a huge admission by the author.
It is. The source is suggesting that maybe it's a hoax. Maybe a movie crew or just some prankster carved it recently.
But just think about the logistics of that. You'd have to sneak into a UNESCO World Heritage Site with a chisel and hammer, match the artistic style of the 12th century perfectly, and carve this deep relief stone without anyone noticing.
Seems unlikely.
It's very unlikely, but not impossible. And the other option is that a 12th century artist knew what a stegosaurus looked like.
Which implies they either saw one,
or they found fossils and reconstructed it.
That's the first paleontologist theory, that the Khmer people found bones and drew what they thought the animal looked like.
But even reconstructing from fossils is incredibly hard. I mean, early paleontologists in the 1800s got it wrong all the time. They put heads on tails, they thought they were giant iguanas. This carving, if it is a stegosaur, is surprisingly accurate to our modern reconstruction.
It really is. It's got the posture right, the arch of the back. Okay, so let's escalate. We've gone from a painting that might be a metaphor to a temple carving that might be a rhino.
Now we go to the stones.
Let's go to the stones, Figure 13 through Figure 18, the Ica stones.
And this is where the sheer volume of evidence really tries to overwhelm you.
We're in Peru now, the Ica province. The text says there are over 15,000 of these stones.
15,000, just let that number sink in for a second. That's not a discovery, that's a library.
And they range from the size of a baseball to a basketball, and some are even larger boulders, found in riverbanks. Now look at Figure 13.
Okay, Figure 13 on the screen. It's a dark, smooth stone, looks like andesite, with these white-ish etchings carved into the surface.
And there is absolutely no ambiguity here.
None. That is a triceratops. It's not a rhino. It's not a boar with horns.
No.
You see the 3 horns. You see the massive bony frill protecting the neck. You see the heavy body and tail.
Yeah.
And there's a human figure right next to it.
Doing what?
It looks like they're holding a weapon, like they're fighting it or hunting it.
And then Figure 16. This one is just wild. It shows a human riding on the back of a pterodactyl.
A flying reptile.
Yeah, holding a spear, sitting on its back, riding it like it's a horse.
The claim here is massive. It's not just we saw them, it's we domesticated them, or at least we had some kind of relationship with them.
Now, the immediate reaction from any historian, archaeologist, or, sane person is fake. These have to be tourist souvenirs.
Right, and the text actually addresses that head on.
It does. It mentions a farmer named Basilio Ushuya. And in the 1960s and 70s, he admitted to carving these things. He said he used dentist drills and shoe polish to make them look old.
Case closed, right?
Well, the text argues that the confession was coerced. Selling antiquities, real pre-Columbian artifacts, is a serious crime in Peru. You go to jail.
But selling art you made yourself is perfectly legal.
So the argument is he claimed they were fakes to stay out of prison.
Which is a plausible legal maneuver, I guess.
But then the document brings up the varnish argument. This is the technical pivot.
Right, the biological varnish. Explain that for the listeners.
So the stones are andesite, very hard volcanic rock.
Yeah.
The text claims there's a natural varnish or patina created by bacteria and oxidation over thousands of years. It's a dark coating on the outside of the stone.
Okay, like a desert varnish.
Exactly. The argument is that if you take a knife and carve a fresh stone today, you scrape away that dark varnish. The groove you make will be the color of the raw stone. It'll be lighter. It'll look fresh.
Makes sense.
But examinations of some of these stones allegedly show that dark varnish inside the carved groove.
Meaning the carving is as old as the varnish itself.
Which would imply they're thousands of years old, not 1960s tourist traps.
But here's the problem for me. 15,000 stones.
It's an industrial scale operation?
If one farmer made them, he'd have to carve a stone basically every day for 40 years. But if an ancient civilization made them, why? Why carve thousands of pictures of dinosaurs? And not just dinosaurs, look at figure 18.
Oh, the medical ones, yeah.
It shows. Is that heart surgery?
The text claims it is. Performing open heart surgery and cesarean section births.
This is where the pattern recognition starts to feel like manipulation. You start with figure 1, the ambiguous painting, and you go, oh, okay, maybe. Then the stegosaur in figure 5. Okay, that's pretty convincing. By the time you get to figure 16 with the guy riding a pterodactyl and performing heart transplants, you've been primed.
You've been walked up the ladder of absurdity.
It's the boiling frog method of alternative history. You accept the small anomaly, and suddenly you're accepting a high-tech civilization that performs transplants while riding dinosaurs. It's a huge leap.
It forces you to make a choice. Either all 15,000 stones are fakes, which implies a massive, multi-generational conspiracy of hoaxers, or history is completely wrong.
And usually the simpler answer is a lot of hoaxers. Humans love making fake things for money.
True. But let's look at one more in this dragon category before we move on. This one feels different to me. Figure 11 and figure 12. The Nile mosaic of Palestrina.
This one is my personal favorite because it's so grounded in reality. It's not some loose stone found in a river. It's a floor in a building.
Put up figure 12. It shows the full mosaic. It's this massive piece of art, roughly 20 feet wide, located in Italy. It dates to around 100 BC.
So this is Roman era, late Republic, and it's a map, essentially. It depicts the flow of the Nile River from the highlands of Ethiopia all the way down to the Mediterranean Delta.
And it is full of animals. Real animals. Hippos, crocodiles, ibises, buffalo.
It's a taxonomy of the Nile. It was the Romans showing off how much they knew about the world. Look at all these strange beasts we found in Africa.
Now zoom into figure 11. What is that?
It's a group of dark-skinned warriors, Ethiopians, presumably, and they're hunting a creature among the reeds. The creature is large, it's reptilian, but it's not a crocodile.
How can you tell?
It's standing up on strong legs. Its belly is off the ground. It has a thick tail and a snout that looks distinct, different.
And the text provides the translation of the Greek label written right above the animal, Crocodiloprodalus.
Which translates to crocodile leopard.
Why would they call it that?
Well, in ancient naming conventions, they often mash words together. A giraffe was a camel leopard, Camelopardalis, camel for the long neck, leopard for the spots.
So crocodile leopard implies what? Crocodile for the scales and the teeth, and leopard for the ferocity, or the spots.
Or maybe the legs. Leopards walk on legs, crocodiles crawl on their bellies.
The text suggests this is a dinosaur.
It looks like a heavy theropod. Or maybe a large varanid lizard like a Komodo dragon. But Komodos are in Indonesia, not Africa.
But here is the constraint. This mosaic sits right next to realistic depictions of hippos and crocodiles.
Yeah.
The artist knew what a crocodile looked like. They drew them correctly just a few feet away on the same floor.
Right, and that's the key. If you know what a crocodile looks like, and you draw it correctly, why would you draw this monster right next to it unless you believed it was a different, real animal?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Why insert a fantasy monster into a detailed map of real biology?
Unless crocodile leopard was just the best name they had for something that didn't fit the known categories, something that was rare, dangerous, and reptilian, but stood up.
Exactly. Okay, so that's the dragon pattern. We have paintings, carvings, stones, mosaics, all showing these reptilian anomalies. But the document doesn't stop at animals. It moves to humans, or things that look a lot like humans.
Section 2, biological anomalies.
Let's start with the Hobbit, figure 26.
Okay, figure 26. This is a skull comparison. On the right, you have a modern human skull. On the left, a much smaller, very distinct skull.
The text identifies this as Homo floresiensis.
Which is real science. We need to be crystal clear about that. This isn't fringe stuff. In 2003, on the island of Flores in Indonesia, archaeologists found the remains of these tiny humans. They stood about 3.5 feet tall.
And they lived until relatively recently. The text here says 13,000 years ago.
Meaning they coexisted with modern humans. We were building villages while these little guys were still hunting pygmy elephants on an island.
The document uses this as an anchor. It's a rhetorical strategy. It's saying, look, science was wrong about this until 2003. We already know there were other types of humans living recently, so why is it such a huge leap to imagine giants?
Or coneheads.
Or coneheads. Let's look at the elongated skulls, figure 29, figure 30, and figure 31.
These are the Paracas skulls, mostly found in Peru, though you see similar ones in Mexico and even parts of Europe.
Describe figure 30 for us.
It's deeply unsettling. It's a human-like skull, but the cranium, the part that holds the brain, it just sweeps back and up. It's massive. It looks like the xenomorph from the Alien movies, but smooth. It doesn't look like it has a forehead. It just slopes back.
The standard skeptical explanation, which the text acknowledges, is head binding, artificial cranial deformation.
Right. And we know this happened. It's a fact. You wrap a baby's head in cloth or you strap boards to it. The Maya did it. The Huns did it. As the baby grows, the skull deforms. We have the boards. We have the mummies. Case closed.
But the text makes a specific scientific claim here that challenges the binding theory. It says, and I quote, "The problem with this theory is that the inside of the cranium of the mentioned bound skulls have the same capacity as normal human skulls."
That's the physics of it. If you take a water balloon and squeeze it, you change the shape, but you don't change the amount of water inside. The volume is constant.
But look at figure 30 again. The text claims the cranial capacity is estimated at 2,200 to 2,500 centimeters. That's cubic centimeters.
And for context, a modern human is about 1,400 centimeters.
So this is nearly double.
That's the claim. And if that measurement is accurate, and that is a very big if, then binding cannot explain it. You can't squeeze a head and make it grow double the bone mass. You can't generate extra brain matter by wrapping a towel around it.
So what are we looking at? Hydrocephaly, a disease.
The text mentions that, pathological cases. But usually, hydrocephaly expands the skull in a more bulbous way, like a balloon inflating evenly. This is elongated, it's structured, and the text points out that there are many of them. Not just one sick individual, it seems to be a population.
And then it links this to mythology. Look at figure 36.
The drawing of Owans?
The Babylonian fish man.
Yeah, it shows the figure wearing what looks like a fish costume. Or maybe it's a fish skin. But the head of the man, underneath the fish hat, is elongated. It's tall.
The text suggests that these cone-head skulls might be the source of these legends, that these were a ruling class of some kind.
Okay.
Right. Sages who brought knowledge to mankind. It's a powerful narrative. You see the skull in figure 30, which is a physical object you can visit in a museum in Ica. Then you see the ancient art in figure 36, and you connect the dots. Oh, the gods looked like this because the ruling class actually looked like this.
Speaking of connecting dots,
Yeah.
let's talk about the horns.
Oh, this is where it gets really weird. This is the point where a lot of people just check out.
It's a bit of a stretch.
Figure 44.
Okay, figure 44. It's a sepia-tone photograph. Looks like it's from the late 19th or early 20th century. It's a skull. But sticking out of the parietal bone, the top sides of the head, are two distinct curved protrusions.
Horns.
They look exactly like horns, like a satyr from Greek mythology.
The text says this skull was found in France, and it claims that an analysis by a Museum of Supernatural History proved the horns were organic to the skull, not glued on.
Museum of Supernatural History does not sound like the most accredited institution, I have to be honest. It sounds like a roadside attraction in Florida.
No, it doesn't. But then it pivots to a text clipping, figure 45.
This is a newspaper clipping.
Yes. It's grainy, it's hard to read, but the headline says, "Huge giants were 7 feet tall and had horns."
And the date on this.
The text says the discovery was in the 1880s in Sayre, Pennsylvania.
Okay, we need to pause on this. This is a very, very common trope in late 19th century American newspapers. The giant find.
Right.
You have to understand the context of journalism back then. Yellow journalism.
Oh.
If you were a farmer and you dug up a big Native American skeleton, by the time it hit the papers, it was a biblical giant. It sold papers.
The text quotes the article describing skeletons of men 7 feet tall with horns growing about 2 inches above the ears.
And of course, the million-dollar question, where are these skulls now?
The museum later claimed that the remains had been stolen and they were never recovered.
How convenient.
It is convenient. It is the classic lost evidence trope. But look at this from the pattern recognition perspective. You have photo in figure 44. You have the newspaper clipping in figure 45. The text links this to the satyr or Pan mythology.
It creates a consistency. If you have stories of horned men in Greece, satyrs, and horned men in Celtic lore, Cernunnos, and then you find a skull with horns, it tempts you to say, okay, the myth is based on biology.
But the biology is so radical. Horns on a mammal, on a primate.
Well, there are skin conditions that cause horn-like growth. They're called cutaneous horns. They're made of keratin, like your fingernails. They can grow on the head. We have modern medical photos of people with them.
But 2 of them. Symmetrical.
That would be one heck of a coincidence, but it's still more likely than a separate species of horned hominid that vanished without a trace, except for one skull in France and a box that went missing in Pennsylvania.
And yet, looking at figure 44, it's a visceral image. It looks organic. It doesn't look like someone just glued goat horns to a human skull. The bone seems to flow into the horn.
That's the power of the photograph. Even if it's a clever taxidermy trick, it just sits there in black and white and it demands an explanation.
Okay, let's leave biology behind. We've done dinos, we've done giants. Now we have to look up Section 3, high technology and the sky.
This is the ancient aliens section, effectively.
It is, and it starts with gold. Figure 46.
The Columbia airplane.
Describe it for us. Figure 46 on your screen.
It's a small golden trinket, maybe a couple of inches wide. It has a fuselage, a nose, upright tail fins, and delta wings.
It looks like a fighter jet.
It looks exactly like a fighter jet. Or space shuttle.
The text says it's between 750 and 1,000 years old. Found in Colombia, made by the Quimbaya culture.
Now, the official explanation for this artifact, because it is a real artifact, you can go see it in the Gold Museum in Bogota, is that it's a zoomorphic figure, a stylized animal, a fish or a bird or an insect.
The text really mocks that explanation. It says different people have described it as a bird, butterfly, or flying fish, though it looks uncannily like an airplane.
It really all comes down to the tail.
The tail.
Yeah, birds don't have vertical tail fins like that. Birds have horizontal tail feathers for steering. Fish have vertical tails, but fish don't have delta wings sticking out the side.
The text mentions mechanical details around the cockpit area.
I'm looking at figure 46. I see some squiggles. Mechanical details might be a bit of a stretch. It could be eyes. Or gills on a fish.
But aerodynamically it works.
Yes. This is the famous part of the story. In 1994, a couple of German model makers, Peter Belting and Konrad Lubbers, built a scale model of this thing. They scaled it up, put a propeller on the nose, and they threw it. It flew. It's aerodynamically sound. The delta wings provide lift. The tail provides stability.
Which is strange. For a stylized fish.
It implies an understanding of lift and drag that just shouldn't exist in pre-Columbian gold work, unless they saw something flying that wasn't a bird.
Or they were just really, really good at making stylized moths.
That's the skeptic's line.
Yeah.
It's a plecostomus fish, a type of catfish. But once you see the jet, you can't unsee it.
Let's move to the medieval UFOs. Because these aren't ambiguous gold shapes. These are news reports, figure 53 and figure 54.
These are woodcuts. This is where we shift from interpretation of art to early journalism.
Figure 53, Basel, Switzerland, 1566. Describe the sky.
It is chaotic. You have the town below with the church spires, and up above, the sky is just filled with spheres, black spheres, red spheres, and they look like they're swarming.
The text quotes a student named Samuel Cochius who wrote about this in the city's Gazette. So this is a newspaper report, essentially.
He describes them as large black balls which moved at high speed, banging one against the others as if they were fighting a battle.
Fighting a battle.
And then they became red and igneous and consumed and died out.
That sounds like an aerial dogfight. Or maybe a meteor shower.
Meteors fall down, they streak, they don't hover in the sky and bang into each other laterally.
Figure 54 shows a similar event in Hamburg in 1697. 2 glowing wheels.
Yeah, the woodcut shows 2 massive glowing wheels hovering over the city.
What's fascinating here is the medium. This isn't a religious painting where the artist is trying to depict God's glory or some kind of allegory. This is a gazette. It's reporting news.
Which changes the weight of the evidence. If CNN reported glowing wheels over New York City, we'd treat it differently than if a painter put them in a mural.
True.
But in 1566, the line between news and omen was pretty blurry.
That's fair. If the crops failed, it was a witch. If the sky turned red, it was a sign from God. But they drew spheres, not angels, not heavenly chariots, spheres.
That's the technological pattern. The shapes are geometric. They're not biological or divine.
Now, I want to look at a moment where the PDF seemingly argues with itself, the Shields debate, figure 55 through 63.
Yeah, this is a really interesting inclusion by the author. It actually increased my respect for them, in a way.
Start with figure 55.
It's a coin. A French jeton from 1656, and it shows a round object in the sky with a rim hovering over a landscape. It looks like a classic 1950s flying saucer.
And the text on it is something like Heavenly Shield.
Right. And you look at it and you go, wow, that's a UFO on a coin from 1656. It seems like a slam dunk.
But then, keep scrolling, look at figure 60, 61, 62.
The author includes pictures of actual shields.
Renaissance-era shields.
And they look exactly like the object on the coin. They're round, they have a central spike or a boss, and they have that distinctive rim.
So the author shows you the mystery. Look at this UFO coin.
Yeah.
And then immediately shows you the mundane explanation. Actually, it's just a stylized shield.
Why would you do that? If you're trying to convince me of an alternative history, why debunk yourself in the middle of your own argument?
I think it builds trust. It says, look, I'm checking these things. I'm not just throwing every single anomaly at you uncritically.
Or maybe it's a double bluff. Maybe the author is saying, yes, it looks like a shield, but why is the shield floating in the sky?
The text does mention a detail on the coin. The protuberance, which starts from its center, does not follow the direction of its axis.
Meaning the spike on the UFO isn't pointing where a shield spike should, it suggests it's rotating or moving independently.
It's a rabbit hole. But let's land on the most famous image in this section, the Madonna and Child with St. John, figure 64.
If you've watched any documentary on UFOs on the History Channel, you have seen this painting.
It's in the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence,
Yeah.
15th century, attributed to Minardi or Ghirlandaio.
And the foreground is totally standard. Mary, baby Jesus, St. John. Very serene, high Renaissance style.
But look at the background. Up in the upper right, figure 66 gives us a close-up.
There's a man standing on a cliff. He's holding his hand to his forehead like he's shielding his eyes, and he's looking up, and there's a little dog next to him, barking at the sky.
And what are they looking at?
It's a gray, oval object with gold beams coming off of it.
It's a blob, a glowing blob.
It looks like a craft. There's no way around it. It looks like a solid object in the sky, completely distinct from the clouds.
Now, the PDF actually includes the skeptic's argument right here. It quotes an art expert, a guy named Diego Cuoghi.
Who says, basically, you guys don't understand art history.
Pretty much. He says it's a radiant cloud, that this is standard iconography for the Nativity. The angel appeared to the shepherds in a radiant cloud.
And that's a fair point. We can't read 15th century symbols with 21st century eyes. We see a spaceship. They meant the glory of God.
But the author pushes back. Read the author's comments below figure 67.
He writes, I agree that figure 61 is intended to be seen as a luminous cloud. But perhaps the more important question is why angels and gods were thought to appear in glowing clouds. Where did this idea come from?
That is the core of the ancient astronaut theory, right there. Even if it is a cloud in the painting. Did the idea of a glowing cloud come from a physical sighting?
Did they paint God as a glowing oval because they saw glowing ovals in the sky and just assumed they must be God?
Exactly. It resolves nothing. It just pushes the mystery back one step.
And that's what this whole document does. It never gives you a smoking gun. It just gives you a maybe.
We're coming up on the end of our time. We've looked at the dragons in the stones, the giants in the earth, and the machines in the sky.
It's quite a stack of anomalies.
Before we wrap up, there's a brief mention in the outro of the PDF about crop circles. Figure 71.
A mowing devil.
A woodcut from 1678. It shows a little devil mowing oats in a perfect circle.
It connects the sky phenomena to the ground. It's the author's way of saying, this isn't just ancient history, it's still happening now. The circles are still appearing.
So, we've gone through the evidence, we've played the game. What does it all amount to?
You know, what strikes me the most is the grouping.
How so?
Notice how different kinds of evidence are treated with the exact same weight. You have a biological anomaly, the Parak skull, which is a physical object you can hold and measure. Then you have an art interpretation, the Madonna painting, which is completely subjective. Then you have a known hoax-prone artifact like the Ica stones.
They're all flattened into the same level of proof.
Exactly. It creates the stacking effect. If I just showed you the painting, you'd say radiant cloud and move on. If I just showed you the stones, you'd say tourist trap. But when you stack them, when you say look at the painting and the stone and the skull and the map,
The sheer volume starts to feel like proof in itself.
it overwhelms your skepticism. You start thinking, well, they can't all be wrong.
And that is the seduction of the document.
It is.
Because, and here's the thought I really want to leave you with. The author says this is a book of questions, not answers. But the implication of that is very fragile.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that for standard history to be right, every single one of these images needs a mundane explanation. Every stone must be a fake. Every painting must be symbolic. Every skull must be a disease or a cultural practice.
Right. The official story has to bat 1,000. Science has to be right every single time.
But for the alternate history to be real, only one of them has to be genuine.
If just one of those plesiosaur paintings is a real animal,
If just one horned skull is a different species,
If just one of those carvings at Angkor Wat is what it looks like, then the timeline breaks.
History breaks. And that is a very tempting possibility to entertain.
It certainly makes you look at the museum exhibits a little differently.
It does. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. Look at the figures. Decide for yourself.
And let us know what you see.
We'll see you next time.